Yvonne McCoy for Let's Talk Tuesday. I had a strange thought, and I was thinking there are three ways to turn off a light. So if you walk into a dark room, there are always several ways to get light in the room. So you can have a light switch, which is like an off or on, and you may even have a three-way bulb, when you turn the switch so that you can get a couple different levels. There's a dimmer switch, and so that you can really customize the level of the light. Or you can have voice control with Alexa and customize the level and even the color. So what's my point? Turning on the light is a very simple solution, a situation that you have a solution for. And you have at least three different solutions. You've got the one problem and the three solutions. So why don't you have more than one solution for your more complicated problems that you're dealing with? So if you're approaching the light switch situation, and you say it's a switch, you say it's off or you're on, you're right or you're wrong, it works or it doesn't work. And so the question is, life is better when it's not a light switch. It's better when it is a dimmer switch or an Alexa, because it gives you more choices, it gives you more ways to customize it. And so let's take a look at that, because a lot of that has to do with you come up with a model that you think that works without trying to customize it and making it fit. Not every screwdriver does every job. Okay, that's why people have big toolboxes, so that they have more customized tools to fix the problem. So you know that you need a tool. You can't just do it with your hands, but the better the tool fits the problem, the better the solution you're going to have. So you want to take a minute and customize whatever model or whatever strategy that you're looking at. And so I want you to know that you're in charge. Your gut reaction is the thing that's important. And this is where it gets a little tricky. You have to do it according to the model at least once so that you've gone through the steps, right? So that you've at least tried all the steps to see what works before you start changing things around and customizing it. But think of it more as a recipe. So the idea is the recipe says something like, you're going to put in milk and butter and seasonings and that kind of stuff. And then you're going to put it, you're going to mix it for so many minutes, and then you're going to put it in the oven. Okay. So what I mean by that is you're not going to look at the recipe and say, oh, I'm going to put these dry ingredients together, and then I'm going to put it in the oven and expect to get a cake. You have to go through the steps. The difference is where you can customize the particular strategy. So when you're making a cake, let's say, maybe you want more vanilla. Maybe you want a different flavoring than vanilla. Maybe you want to add some other spices. Okay, maybe your oven, and your oven cooks faster. So you have to change the setting. You don't want it at 350. You need it at 375. So that's where you're kind of customizing, not necessarily in the order that you're doing the things, okay? The other thing is that you want to always be looking for new ideas. I mean, it's great that you have an idea that works, but you want to enhance it. So a lot of us have ideas that are very wide, but they're not very deep. So for instance, one of the things that I teach all the time is the change model, that you have to end something before you start something, that you are in the push-pull in between, all right? One of the things that I just heard recently that makes my model, and it's not mine, it's Dr. Bridges' model, but makes the model deeper is the concept of how do you make decisions. So when you're in that push-pull period, how do you make decisions so that it works even better for you? One of the things that we want to do is we want to say, okay, what works well for me? I mean, when you get into a situation and things are a little bit chaotic, you want to say, okay, what's working well? All right, because you want to keep those things. You don't want to throw them out. You want to keep them and add things to that. So this decision part that I can now add to the model, the idea that we're only afraid of the unknown, right? So when you're making a change, so you're now going into something unknown, gives you that indecision and gives you that fear. So now the model is deeper. So you want to look for ideas that build on the things that are working for you. The other problem is, or the other thing to take a look at, is that you definitely want to work on the root cause of whatever the problem is, right? You can have a great solution, but if it doesn't get rid of the root cause and it only attacks the symptoms, or that you see, then it's going to keep reoccurring, and that's not what you want. You want something that's going to work, and that you can get to the root cause and get rid of the problem so that you can move on to bigger and better things. So what does this mean? All this, blah, 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 blah. What does it mean? So let's say you're working with people. You've got a team, right? Not everybody in the team is motivated by the same thing. So for instance, I am not motivated by a certificate. I mean, that really does nothing for me. But there are some people who really like that kind of thing. I would much rather get a gag gift, that says, greatest, whatever, than a really serious certificate to put on my wall. So you have to look at, yes, it's important to reinforce good behavior and to acknowledge it. But then you have to customize how you do that to the people that you're working with, right? So one of the things that is important that I've been thinking about is situational awareness. A lot of times we are not conscious of how a situation or the patterns of how things work. So for instance, I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said to them, when I was in the tax business, I think we all go to work kind of with Monday morning, we're going to get started, we're going to get a lot done. What I realized was that the IRS sent out letters on Friday, and so there were a mound of customer complaints on Monday because they had gotten these letters on Friday, they were freaked out. And so I decided that my goal was to actually get nothing done on Monday. Because there was constant interruption. But understanding that pattern and understanding what had to take place and having some awareness of the flow during that week made things a lot better. The flip side to that was when I decided to have a long weekend, I took Mondays off because that was when all the catastrophes happened. And if it was really an emergency, somebody took care of it. If it could wait, it was there for me on Tuesday. So having situational awareness of what's going on has a lot to do with how you use the solutions that you've come up with. So I'm going to say this. This is Let's Talk Tuesday, and I see I have a couple people that are on the line. So if you would log in and tell me if you have any questions that you want to talk about either planning or customizing models, that kind of thing, or working with time, I would be very happy to answer them. So everybody got very shy. Okay, so I just want to tie up some loose ends and tell you just a couple of more things, and then I'm going to let you go. So the real issue is one strategy is not always going to work. One, because not every situation is the same, and you have to have that situational awareness. Two, not every tool, no one tool is going to solve every single problem, and so you should have a lot more tools in your toolbox. Two, trust your gut. You are an intelligent adult, and it's easy for you to be able to customize something so that it works for you and with you. And I think that's so important. I think sometimes the first place we go is, why can't I make this work? When the real question is, what's wrong? So this isn't working for me. So you need the right tools, you need multiple strategies, you need, a willingness to self-correct so that you can have options. Okay, a simple one is we talk about the time thing, about having the boulders, the rocks, and the sand in a time container. Well, if you have a day, if your time container is a day, all right, then a 10-minute activity is sand. If your time period is 20 minutes, then that 10-minute activity is now a boulder. So being able to take a look at the situation that you're in and be able to come up with an answer is really important. So that's it for me for Let's Talk Tuesday. I want to make sure that you know that there are other ways that you can work with me. So one is obviously I'm going to be here on Tuesdays. If you've got questions, if you can't see this live, you can send me an email and I'll answer it. The other thing is, if you haven't downloaded my life planning system yet, you can go to YvonneMcCoy.com/adept living and get that there and get started. And March 12th, I am going to be doing a free webinar on Make Time Easier. So I hope that I will see you on one of those. Until then, until next week, it's Yvonne McCoy. Let's Talk Tuesday.